You are without doubt the worst pirate I've ever heard of.
But you have heard of me.
I remember watching it, like, even the color grading on it, like, it just looks really high quality. Like, that movie has no right to be that good.
Yeah, well, it's a movie you
Because
didn't expect.
it's based on a roller coaster.
Weren't you saving this for the podcast?
And it's like a cinematic...
You're not recording, are you?
We're rolling.
Oh.
So do your thing. But, man, I don't understand how Disney made a roller coaster into a movie and it's unbelievably good movie. And I think people...
I'm sorry.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 9 of The Slime. I'm Benjamin Smith, as usual, joined by Diego Pizarro.
Hello, everybody.
And today we're talking about an underrated movie, I think. Everybody likes it, but I think it's kind of taken for granted. And upon rewatching this, you realize how incredible it is. And this movie has no right to be this good, as I was saying earlier, because it was a fluke. I'm talking about The Curse of the Black Pearl, Pirates of the Caribbean.
The first installment.
Yeah, the first, and that's all we're talking about is the first installment today, because I see it as untouchable. It's perfect.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, me too. And even though it's involved in this franchise, it stands on its own. Kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark stands on its own, as like people refer to that movie as Raiders. Well, some people refer to Pirates as the first one.
I would put it on that level. And
Absolutely.
It is kind of overrated yet underrated at the same time.
Yeah, I agree.
I get what you're saying, because it's made so much money and it's gone way longer than it should have. And people still seem to have an appetite for it, which I don't get. But I don't think when we talk about the good parts of the Caribbean movies, as you said, I don't think people realize how good that first one is.
Yeah.
I kind of wish it was a standalone movie, because it's one of my favorite movies of all time. At least one of my favorite blockbusters.
And when people refer to Pirates of the Caribbean, usually, they're referring to, how many movies are there? 5 or 6, whatever.
God.
But you're
like 7?
I don't know. You're referring to the whole franchise, and the first one is overlooked in that, and it stands out. The creation of this Jack Sparrow character, a pop culture icon. Did Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow was just one of those unbelievable, say it again, untouchable type of characters. Like, nothing is ever going to match the iconic level of Captain Jack Sparrow. You know what I mean?
But was ultimately a curse, and kind of we see the beginning of that happening, where an actor gets into a role for years and years and years and years, decades even, for franchise films, and when that franchise is done, they don't have the same pull and the same power that they used to, and they just can't really sell a movie outside of that. That being said, this performance is still incredible, especially in this first movie, because Jack Sparrow feels more like a real person, and it's less cartoony than it would get later on.
But it is also cartoony, but also smart at the same time. And I feel like this movie is a lot smarter than you think it is in terms of the plot and how everything comes together more or less at the end of this movie, and it makes sense. Like how you look at Jack maybe as this drunken pirate idiot, but he's actually playing everyone in this who's involved with him. So I just think the plot goes a little deeper than people think. We have incredible roles, Captain Barbossa and Will Turner, with Orlando Bloom. Like, these are...
Jeffrey Rush, which is incredible.
Is that his name?
Yeah, did Barbossa, great actor.
Yeah, wow.
And if you watch interviews with that guy, it's unrecognizable. He is transformed when he's in those movies. Seems like a different person, like entirely, like almost no resemblance to me.
These characters just identifiable to this franchise, and it's cool because they appeared out of nowhere. Because like this idea sparked and was fabricated all from this ride at Disney World, right? And it's just
often unsuccessful genre in previous years, right? Which almost came to its advantage, because there was really no successful pirate movie before or since,
and still not.
But what's great about that is it wasn't a pirate movie that was heavily inspired off of other pirate movies or was derivative of them in any way, because you didn't want to copy those movies because it was a failed method. So you get this kind of inspiration from, like, it almost reminds me of like silent movies or like Charlie Chaplin in the way Jack walks and his stunts and the way he fights. And I think those kind of influences make for a stronger movie and a more creative movie than it would have made if it had years of pirate movies behind it. So just so we look off with the plot. What do you think of the opening when we have young Elizabeth on the ship singing? Every time you kind of get first introduced to the pirates when she meets Will, whose ship is wrecked, and they catch a glimpse of the Black Pearl. Some people find that scene slow, and the only negative part about the movie is it's strong open.
It's 2 minutes long. Get over if it's slow. You can't sit through 2 minutes of context as to some introducing some of these characters. Like, it's not like it drags. It's pretty quick. They pull them out, and the ship is revealed.
And I would argue it subverts your expectations really well, because I would say in that first 2 minutes, it feels like a regular pirate movie or like a real adventure movie. And to me, it doesn't seem like it's going to be anything that special, like pretty by the numbers. Yeah. They see a destroyed ship, scary ship, and like, you know, don't be talking about
it's
pirates.
It's pretty dramatic.
But then it subverts your expectations, and you immediately kind of sort of realize, oh, we're in for something a bit different.
So as I was watching that sequence, what came to mind was how well the first 10 minutes flow. You have that sequence there in which it gives you context as to these bad guys and the pirates and whatnot, but Elizabeth wakes up, and it turns out that was a dream. Yeah. And she's dreaming about her past, and then Will Turner shows up at her house delivering this sword, and she's getting it dressed to go get married or go to the ceremony. And then it just flows very well, the introduction of these characters, but then you have the dramatic reveal.
Just before that, I got to mention with Will and the brilliance of this movie.
I wanted to talk about this.
The little things they add that make him likable, like when he accidentally breaks the candle and then tries to hide. You immediately know this guy's poor. He feels uncomfortable around these people because they're noblemen, they're wealthy. Says all it needs to say without saying much. You immediately get that they have a crush on each other too.
Exactly. You see the chemistry kind of, but she's not. She's kind of patting around it because she's a wealthy person and he's a lower class blacksmith. But there's that visual humor. You know, you see him, as you said, break the light, and he tries to hide it in this little tin at the ground. You know, it's they make him relatable and likable, and they're always feeding you information. Information is being fed to you during the entire first 20 minutes of this movie.
But it's so subconscious. It's like so easy to digest. You don't even notice
easy watching
that it's happening.
Yeah.
Just flows really well. And now we get to the big reveal. Continue, sir.
The dramatic entrance of Jack Sparrow, where it's playing the epic, iconic theme song, and he's
killer score.
The wind and the mist of the ocean is on his face, and then you realize he's on a tiny little dinghy.
Even though they made him look like he's this big, strong
they make
pirate.
it look like he's this pirate standing on top of this massive ship, but it's a stupid dinghy. But he's still interesting and intriguing, and it's still kind of badass.
Well, and it already kind of it starts off with this. You mentioned the music. A lot of the stuff in Pirates of the Caribbean, especially the first two movies, they all feel like choreographed dance. A lot of the action, a lot of the big triumphant scenes. And as his dinghy is like sinking, he literally steps right onto the deck on the sunken ship. Right as the music finishes, bam, he's walking, and it feels so perfectly timed,
orchestrated, you know,
and it's hilarious. You know, it's funny to subvert expectations immediately.
And then the short dialogue scene where you see him interacting with this boat keeper, and you see Jack Sparrow is smooth with the tongue, man. Like the way he talks to people, confuses people, swindles people for their money, all within a quick exchange of 2 or 3 sentences. It's really cool stuff.
I thought it was I loved the line where he's like, make it 3 shillings and we forget the name. Like that's I loved that line as a kid. I always thought he was badass.
I noticed that rewatching it is the way he swindles people like that. It's cool.
And then so then he heads to the blacksmith shop.
And but like you said, the choreographed dance that he has, the fight with Will, is like it gives me like it's like a musical, but it's a little more appealing to people who don't really like musicals because they're two people fighting, you know, with swords, pirates fighting, and I think that works with the genre too. How it kind of tiptoes between being a show and a musical and a showcase. And
I would say
whatnot.
one of the best first action scenes in a movie. Like, what a way to start it off. It's not too grand. It's not a huge pirate battle. They didn't start off with that. They start off with this very condensed, when you think about it, small action scene, but it's just so well choreographed, so high energy that it's kind of the perfect introduction. Doesn't give too much away.
Yeah.
And you have that, like I said, 1920s silent film kind of stunts when they're both on the like teeter-totter going back and forth, and they're jumping up onto the beams and they're hopping back and forth in almost like a dance.
Unbelievable amount of work probably went into that.
Oh, I can imagine.
Choreographing that and then learning, if I step here, dun, 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 it's like, and you step back there. Like, you see how these characters start interacting with each other, and Jack kind of comes off as you're getting the vibe. He is a pretty dangerous person, and he is just toying with Will, someone who is a special, like he's trained in sword fighting, but Jack is not breaking a sweat, and he's just
what a well-rounded character, because you realize he's kind of crazy too. And you see his darker side, even though you kind of saw his cooler side before. You
know, there's some mystery to him, and there is some mystery to him that's revealed later in the movie. He has a darker past, and he's interconnected with this plot, but you know, sorry about that, guys. Fucking didn't turn the ringer off on my phone, but you know, what can you do, right?
Where were we? Oh, the fight. Yeah.
The choreographed fight, but we're kind of getting into the mystery of Jack Sparrow.
Yeah, that's kind of brought up. This movie does a really good job at kind of putting mystery in front of you to draw you in right at the beginning. I think we missed when he first talks about the Black Pearl. No, that's later.
No. Yeah, when he enters the port, he's talking to these two guys at the dock. These two kind of knucklehead soldiers, guards who weren't invited to the ceremony. They have to stay down at the docks and protect the boats. And Jack is looking to steal a boat, take a boat, and these two knuckleheads come over to him and they start bickering, but they kind of drop the mystery on you of the Black Pearl and how some people believe it to be a real ship with ghost pirates, and some people just think it's a fairy tale, but you kind of learn it is real, and Jack knows a thing or two about it.
And that's kind of your first time you hear about it, other than in that first scene. So they're doing a really good job at drawing you in. And then, of course, you mentioned the ceremony. While all this is going on, this movie just got so much to it.
Yeah, it opens up right at the beginning.
Yeah, Elizabeth's at the ceremony for Captain Norrington.
Yeah.
He's going to be made Commodore.
She falls off the rocks because she can't breathe. But then, boom, these two scenes collide.
Bam.
That's so smart. I didn't even think of that before. But, like, you're watching these two scenes, and then they collide into one scene because she falls off the cliff, and Jack is decently far away, but he's having his own scene off on the other side, and he sees her falling, and then he jumps in to rescue her, and then from then it's ongoing. We kind of get Norrington realizes that Jack is a pirate, but he did save Elizabeth. But this whole scene's great too. Checking out his loot, his sword, his compass doesn't point north.
When he hits the crane and goes up on there to escape from them running through the city.
Orchestrated musical type set piece, action set piece.
Long episode, guys.
We don't got to go through the entire movie like this, but the beginning is just a lot, and it takes off.
Amazing, right? Like, and then of course, then we have the sword fight in the blacksmith shop.
Yeah, Jack is was thrown into prison, and then the Black Pearl attacks the harbor because they want something. But we're not going to get into the deep logistics of this plot, but the way that this movie opens up is just information dumping, but it's also casual watching. It's fun to watch. There's a lot to look at visually. The set design, costume design.
Beautiful.
I'm not taken out of the immersive. Like I'm completely immersed the entire time I'm watching this. when they're on the boats, on the ships, usually I notice, and I kind of look for it now in movies, like being able to tell if that's green screen or not. And when I watch this movie, I'm not doing that. I actually kind of subconsciously think they are out on a ship in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, I didn't think about. They kind of mixed though. Like I feel like ones where they're closer to shore, they are on a ship, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, of course.
And then I
think they do in shallow water, but actually with a real pirate ship out there in the middle of the ocean, no. But when they do that, it's done really well and it's really believable.
I think the set design's great too. I love the way Royal looks. We think of the opening scene, not the opening scene, but the first scene where we see the Black Pearl crew and they attack the town and they have that great score, the scary music that they always play. Bump, 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 bump.
Yeah, and then we're seeing all these scary pirates raiding the town with like the great soundtrack tied in again. As you're saying, and Jack just has to sit in his cell while these people invade. But even this pirate crew that's invading the port, all the visual effects and makeup and special effects on them, they look scary and dirty. And I was low-key scared as a kid watching this. It was really creepy stuff.
The crying kid used to get to me when you
there's a kid just in the street. He's going,
"Mama!"
That rewatching it, I was like, damn.
That one got me when I was a kid. Sometimes I'd skip that part because this is just one of those movies that I would watch all the time.
When you're a kid, you skip between the good scenes and whatnot.
And sometimes that invasion scene was just too much. But I don't know.
Yeah, but then the movie does slow down. Like
after this,
they kidnap Elizabeth, and then Will Turner wants to rescue her, so he talks to Jack, and they set off to rescue her. We're not going to get into why she was kidnapped and everything, but it's a intertwined plot.
And their escape is just as awesome as the opening. They do this brilliant move with the ships where they get the Royal Navy to cast off for them.
Yeah, that part I was intensively watching. Everything is so huge and big and grand.
Or even just them, movie. I don't even know if this would work, but when they're got the boat and they go underwater with it on top of their heads.
Yeah, they're walking at the bottom of the ocean with this canoe type thing over their head because it creates an air pocket. Theoretically, it works, but I think the pressure of the water would crush you.
Yeah, I don't understand how that would. Oh my god! But that's amazing, and you kind of get the first seeds of now you're in a pirate movie and it's an adventure.
Yeah,
and they're out in the middle of the ocean.
I think. It's also really important to let you guys know that we were obsessed with Pirates of the Caribbean just as much as Indiana Jones and Star Wars.
This first one is on that level as far as I'm concerned. Maybe controversial, but it is.
It was one of those movies where you're a kid and you're sitting on the floor playing with your action figures and the movie's just playing. It's just on the TV, on repeat. Mm-hmm. And me and you shared that liking for Pirates of the Caribbean. By the time the second one came out, it was starting to get big and we were obsessed with it. I went as Jack Sparrow for Halloween one year. Had all the action figures too.
I went as Pirates, and I had my room decorated like it at one time.
We both did. Had our walls decorated looking like Pirates of the Caribbean. So we are quite fanatics when it comes to Pirates of the Caribbean.
Which was an ugly room looking back. It was like
it was terrible.
Red and turquoise with like stupid ship wheels on the wall and like Jolly Rogers and whatever. But hey, it is what it is.
Well, it's wholesome though. Like this... being a kid and being obsessed with something, like being obsessed with just pirates, and that's your phase. You're just into pirates and all things pirates.
But I would put it on the level of Star Wars, or this first one anyway. And none of the following ones are as good, as everybody knows. But
you know what? It's like a staircase down. Each movie does get worse and worse. Mm-hmm. Confidently, I can say that each movie does get worse and worse.
Dead Man's Chest has the strong opening like this one, but yeah, even that starts to get...
Ooh, Dead Man's Chest is a visual masterpiece.
Well, everybody said that,
breakthrough in in CGI. And
Well, Davy Jones looks really good, especially by today's standards.
The mocap design and character design. Wow. But that's not the movie we're talking about.
But just, the light on his face, like everything's amazing.
Something I did want to talk about with The Curse of the Black Pearl is the way that they blend realism and fantasy.
Yeah, they do a pretty good job at that. They never, as far as I know, the creators have never said that they're trying to be historically accurate. It's like more of a feeling because not everything's spot on. But yeah, do a really good job at mixing kind of this historic kind of vibe with this movie with the supernatural without it coming off as cheesy. We were talking about Davy Jones, but we should really talk about Captain Barbossa and his crew of skeleton pirates and how amazing of villains those are.
His presence, Barbossa, he's intimidating and scary and mysterious, and you don't know what he's capable of, but the performance that, what's his name, Jeffrey Rush gives is...
It's the most piratey out of all of them. He's got the voice down.
He's such a pirate, and he's such a scallywag.
Yeah, it's a very pirate voice that he has, and so. But what's crazy is I would say that this movie is more driven by the heroes, whereas Dead Man's Chest is more driven by the villain.
That's really
interesting. And you
interesting.
could even argue at World's End. Davy Jones is, for some reason, well, we know why, but is a lot better remembered. And I would say his whole backstory and personal life plays so heavily into the plot later on. Barbossa is they're more just like zombies. They're kind of just there. But they're not bad. They're amazing. I'm just saying it's weird how there's that kind of switch.
They have this supernatural element and presence because they cannot die, and they're skeletons in the moonlight. They don't feel anything. They don't really feel emotion. They can't feel touch. They don't eat or sleep. So they have that shallow, miserable life, and you feel that.
Oh, I want to
in a scary, evil way.
I didn't know they were skeletons. I was just comparing them to zombies. That's what they feel like to me. It feels more akin to a zombie movie kind of.
But that's such a pirate thing too. Fighting off waves of skeleton pirates. That's such a pirate's trope. And the fact that it's interwoven into the storyline is really cool.
And talk about CGI holding up.
Wow, yeah.
When they're walking under the water.
Wow, that is such a cool shot.
And they're going under the boats and they're switching back and forth between human and skeleton. And this movie's 20 years old and it looks incredible.
I watched this video on VFX artists reacting to the CG in this movie, and they were the most impressed and amazed by that underwater shot, and wondering how they accomplished that shot. Being able to tell, is it actually people underwater, or is it an entire CG? Are they just walking on a soundstage? I don't know, but it's phenomenal. That's the shot where the aspect ratio changes. You don't notice it, but the aspect ratio changes because there was a dramatic scene before that, and now there's this dramatic scene of them walking under the water, but then the next scene is an action sequence where they come onto the boat. So in between the transition, the bars on the screen fade up and fade down, and the the freaking screen opens up. But I don't know, that stuff kind of excites me, I think cinematography, I guess.
I think the movie toes the perfect balance between CGI and live action sets.
Yeah,
because Port Royal looks spectacular.
Wow.
The ships are real.
Yeah,
look spectacular. Tortuga's amazing.
Yeah,
that feels so alive, just all the people scrunched together. But before I want to make this point, those sets look amazing, and there's a lot of sets that feel real and you can really put you in the movie, but then there's this amazing CGI that's kind of used where it's needed, because even Isla de Muerte, the inside, is a live set
CGI should be used to enhance the scene, not create an entire scene out of scratch using CG. CG should be used to assist in a scene to make it to bring that fantasy element to life.
Yeah, and yeah, again, Tortuga is an amazing set.
Whoa, this movie's a lot longer than I thought.
Yeah, it's a long movie.
I didn't know it's 2.5 hours long.
Mm-hmm. It's good. In the middle, there's a lot of. I feel like it does. If somebody could make the argument that it's a lot more interesting in the beginning and at the end, but I'd still say it's
I come along for the adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I don't know. Like, I think Isla de Muerta is a great set. By the way, I always think it looks really good.
Yeah, like how much is if you aren't familiar, that is just a cave. A water cave filled with gold and loot, piles of it. And do you think all of that is, how much of that do you think is real?
I think that's a real set.
Yeah,
it looks really.
It has a lot of screen time. It takes up a lot of the movie, which makes sense that they then would have that be a real set.
But to me, that I like that. It looks like a real set. It looks like they're in an actual place. It doesn't look like a video game.
Yeah.
And I think it is real because you see them. You hear the jewels getting knocked around, and you see them being knocked around. I don't know if you could really do that on a CGI set and have it.
They would have that where what they're standing on, all that is real. And then
that's true.
After a couple feet behind them, that is where they would transition to CG. But like you said, how this feels like a real place, I kind of want to talk about the scenes on deck and on the ship. And there's plenty in this movie, but like as a whole, if you want to pull from the other movies too, how they create a set of this ship. Like when they're talking on the deck of the ship, it actually... I don't know. It feels like you're in an enclosed space. Like it's weird the way that they do it because
they make it feel small. It doesn't feel like when you're on a boat in the ocean. I find like everything feels really just wide and big and out there, and I feel like they make it feel very tight and like homey and
like this is like the Black Pearl feels like its own character, like its own place.
Yeah, like it feels like almost akin to another island they're on.
Yeah, it's weird because like and then I also kind of want to say, don't you think that it would be really windy and stuff, and their hair would be blown when they're just chatting on the deck of the ship? But now you realize not really. They're kind of just talking.
Yeah, well, they glamorize the pirate life, right?
And that's what I'm trying to say. But it works and it blends quite well.
No, I mean you wouldn't want it to be a totally realistic depiction of a pirate's life. It'd be awful.
The film grain and the color grading of this movie, the overall tint that it has adds to the level of realism, like how realistic it feels. And this movie is first and foremost like pirates and fantasy, but to a certain extent, this movie feels real and like it feels realistic, and like it doesn't exist in a fantasy world. This could have.
It feels like a real legend, like sailors would have told.
Yeah, and this is a story you could believe. Maybe there was a skeleton crew a couple hundred years ago, but then the next movies kind of throw it all out the window and they go completely overboard in certain places with the supernatural elements. But
think how cool though. Okay, it wouldn't have been cool to have been alive back then, but one of the cool things about being alive back then is stories like the Black Pearl and its cursed crew and the Flying Dutchman. People like genuinely questioned whether that was real because the world seemed so big, so mysterious. Nobody had been anywhere. People didn't travel like they do these days. There's no internet, no TV, like nothing connecting the world.
Well, the thing is, back then someone would claim that they saw this flying ship of ghost pirates and be like, oh, you're fucking crazy. But then someone else who doesn't have anything to do with this claim, doesn't know the person who made the claim, is like another side of the world. I also saw a flying ghost ship, and you're like, oh damn, maybe there is a flying ghost ship.
Just the mystery of that time.
Yeah.
And they make great use of that in this movie. Like when Jack first tells, we talking back in the beginning, when he first tells the two sailors about the Black Pearl, and they're both kind of questioning it. That kind of mystery just doesn't exist anymore, and it just would have been fascinating to have been alive back then.
He goes, there's no survivors. Yeah. And he's like, well, then I wonder where the stories come from.
Yeah. Killer line, man.
Clever. Like Jack is a stupid drunk, but he's also witty and clever.
No, he's a rock star.
And I think this is the only movie where his character is perfect. And I think there's a steady decline in Jack's character after every movie.
Well, they made him the main character. And in the following
Yeah, that's right.
movies.
It's important to mention Johnny Depp is a supporting role in this.
Yeah, even though they put him on the front posters.
He's on the front poster, but the story really is about Will and Elizabeth.
As it should be. No Pirates of the Caribbean without Will and Elizabeth. What is this nonsense? I'm sorry.
The whole story revolves around Will Turner's family. So to have them not in this franchise anymore sucks.
It's like doing Star Wars without Skywalkers. Like, I mean, who would do that?
Yeah.
Like,
who would do that? Yeah, well, they are doing that.
No, you know what I mean? Like, it's just this crazy thing to do. But I don't know. People like On Stranger Tides. But I'm like, no. It's not very good.
They get progressively worse, man. Like, the Curse of Black Pearl is like perfect, and Dead Man's Chest is also just as good, close to just as good. But then after that is where they start to get questionable. The first two are pretty much untouchable, but everyone after the first two doesn't really hold up.
I like to look at it as a trilogy, even though I'm not a big fan of that World's End.
Yeah, if you look at it as a trilogy, it is decent.
Like, it's an okay trilogy, really strong start.
They should have stopped at the third.
It wrapped it up kind of nicely. Now
it did wrap it up nicely.
And then I remember back then as a kid, I wasn't like, oh, waiting for the next one. I'm like, all right, well, I guess that's it. And
but I was happy then because like you can move on to the next thing.
Okay, and also, it's a big enough name. I don't understand why they couldn't change the name from Pirates of the Caribbean to just a Jack Sparrow movie, because that's what these next two movies are.
Yeah.
Really, they're kind of Jack Sparrow standalone movies, and it's like, okay, why can't we just call it that then? It would still suck, and I probably still wouldn't be a fan of it, but at least we could call Pirates of the Caribbean a trilogy.
Yeah, you don't gotta mislead people.
And Jack Sparrow would sell tickets.
Johnny Depp sells tickets.
Yeah, but that name is recognizable enough. You put him on a poster, that image is recognizable enough. I don't understand, because that's what On Stranger Tides and Dead Men Tell No Tales are. They're Jack Sparrow movies.
I just think the Jack Sparrow is the perfect role for Johnny Depp, and he kind of just amplifies the type of person he is. Like Jack Sparrow, like you said, he is a rock star, and he's cool, and he's got swag, and that's all stuff that Johnny Depp likes to bring to the table. So it just all stars aligned for him in this role.
It's based off of Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones.
I thought his dad was based. Oh wait, isn't his dad Keith?
Yeah,
Richards?
That's why Keith Richards played his dad later, sort
right.
of like a nod and a wink.
That's cool. That's fucking cool too. His dad is so cool.
Yeah, well, it's literally the guy he based Jack Sparrow off of, right? So Keith Richards just kind of had to be himself. If you watch interviews with Keith Richards, you can kind of see it, what he's trying to go for, especially the movements and stuff. But
Keith Richards, it plays Captain. How do you say his name? Tiggy?
Yeah, something like that. That man looks like 106.
Wow.
An old-looking dude. I mean, he is old, but my God.
That'd be a really cool action figure.
Yeah, he's
Jack Sparrow's dad.
Character. They had him play guitar. And then you know what they did? I think it was on Dead Men Tell No Tales. Either one, Stranger Tides, Dead Men Tell No Tales. They had Paul McCartney. Come on,
they did.
And I'm like, oh, yay! You want to be so much like the old movies you're gonna have, and want another rock star.
Wait, let me see this. Paul McCartney was in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Except it's not a good cameo because Paul McCartney's not a badass, not known for being like a badass. So it's like it's not convincing as a pirate. Watch
what the hell?
And he has this dumbass beard on that looks like a fake beard.
I don't know if I saw this.
Okay, but for the first time seeing it, does it look as good as Captain Teague's? It's not even close.
Fucking chance.
Not even close. But even Captain Teague's is not that. Like,
who does he play? Paul McCartney.
I don't know what the name of the character is.
Dead Man Tell No Tales. I think I half watched it.
I saw it in the theater.
Really?
Okay, my cousin Carlos, right? Shout out to Carlos. He's still holding on to this movie franchise. He still thinks it's good.
He's hyped about Pirates still?
Oh, yeah. I respect his opinion. He's an awesome guy.
If you enjoy something, enjoy it. Absolutely. Don't let anyone take that away from you.
But I don't get it. And me and him saw Dead Men Tell No Tales in the theater together, like, really soon after it came out. And he was like, let's go. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't really want to go. But he's like, let's go. And he thought it was good. I don't get it. And I can't believe I saw this movie. It's
forgettable for me.
Ugh. It's just forgettable, and
I think Stranger Tides is better. Stranger Tides, I don't completely hate. I don't completely hate Stranger Tides, but Jack is an idiot in that one.
I don't like it. And Dead Men Tell No Tales, the opening scene in particular, will really get your blood boiling because it's the slapstick action that we're used to, but now it just feels like a cheap imitation.
And they really went overboard on the CG in this one just because they could. These pirates, like, parts of their bodies just missing, but, like, the body part is still there. It's just invisible. Like, they're dead men. Well, they are, but it's just weird. And I think they went overboard on that. And the comedy just isn't there anymore. I heard that they had to feed Johnny Depp lines during this one, and whatever you want to say, what kind of mental state he was in, he wasn't in the condition to make this movie, then, like, yeah, that sucks and all, but then he shouldn't have made it. I don't know if he was pulled into a contract. I don't know. I don't want to get into Johnny Depp drama, but I don't even want to talk about that movie because we're here talking about the first one, but
yeah, I mean,
it's complicated now, this whole Pirates saga thing. We don't know where it's headed because he said no amount of money would bring him back to the franchise, but then there's rumors that he is coming back.
Well, whatever. We're not going to worry about that right now.
Yeah.
So, but I want to ask you, Keira Knightley, what do you think of her? I think Elizabeth Swann is a great character, someone that we really see go from a scared, stuck-up person to a pirate at the end, and it's done very well. Builds perfectly. You see her scared at first, getting her confidence, then kind of scared again, and then by the end, she's almost fearless.
She's a very strong lead, and she's pretty likable.
And she was so young.
Yeah, how young was she when she made this movie?
When this movie came out, she was not even 20.
Great for her, man.
Holy.
What a performance.
Crazy.
Like, it was a great performance, and she was keeping up with all these other highly experienced actors.
I mean, yeah, to keep up with Johnny Depp alone for like a 17-year-old.
Yeah, wow.
Insane.
What a feat.
And then, I mean, I would say out of the main characters, I would say Orlando Bloom stands out the least. Will Turner.
Funny because, like, he plays such a cheesy character.
That's what I'm saying.
But I don't know why I buy into it.
No, I like it. I just think Will probably blends in the most out of all the main characters. He's just not as dynamic, and he's more of a generic hero. And I do understand the studio's logic of wanting to make Jack the lead after, because Jack is, at the end of the day, a more interesting character.
Yeah, that's what people come for. But, like, you got to remember what made the first movie the first movie. Yeah.
Is Will and Elizabeth's love story. And that works for Jack to play off of. Having him run a whole movie, it loses the seriousness, and I don't know. It just doesn't work.
For a while there, it was rumored Margot Robbie was going to be the new lead in a new Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, but that's not true.
No. We don't need that. We don't need any more. You know, that's what I would say to that. I don't know what the sixth movie is going to be, but
if you haven't checked out the first one, if you got caught up in the hype of these movies and you just started watching them, you never caught the first one, forget everything you've seen and watch the first one. If you haven't watched the first one in a while, you should revisit it. It's a great movie.
Oh, do you also not think? Sorry for the pause.
Yeah.
How even towards the end it ties all the characters together really well, and things just kind of fall into place. Mm-hmm. So Jack and Elizabeth get kicked off the Black Pearl, end up on the island. Elizabeth makes a smoke signal, and then the Royal Navy sees them. Jack makes a bargain with them to get the Black Pearl. So now, bam, Jack and Elizabeth are with the Navy, going after the skeleton pirates. They're tricking the Navy, tricking everybody.
Yeah.
And now all the characters are back together for this great final battle, done in a perfect way. I mean, I guess you could say, what are the odds that a Navy ship happened to be sailing in this area and saw the smoke signal? But I can suspend my disbelief that was luck.
Well, we were talking about how the movie opens up dumping all this information, but it's like completely it intertwines the story really well with like how these characters are progressing through the world. Mm-hmm. But that continues through the whole movie. Like, it's just really strong at first, but it continues through the entire movie, and it happens without you even realizing it. So it's just really, really well done in terms of world building and storytelling. And
just a well-written, risky movie at the time.
Why do you say risky, would you say?
So risky.
Why, though?
Well, okay. It was a franchise that had no success, and really ever, or in any recent memory.
Pirates in general is not a big popular genre.
So there's that. I mean, the only other pirate movie that I can think of is Muppets Treasure Island. And you know what? That's a solid kids movie. Check it out.
Hook.
Yeah, that's another one. But even these, right, they're kids movies. Even though Tim Curry kills it in Muppet Treasure Island. Seriously, great kids movie. Corny, but good. But anyway, so it's a failed genre, basically, and it's based off a ride, which I have written. And it's kind of a lame ride at that. You sit in a boat. You go through Tortuga. You're just riding like it's like a lazy river, just slow in the boat and see all the pirate stuff. Goes dark for a bit. You go down a tiny little hill. You're like, a little tickle, and then, that's it. It's over. So it's a pretty lame ride, all things being said. And for some reason, they just said, hey, let's make a movie off this ride nobody cares about.
How they were able to fabricate this entire universe will remain a mystery to me, to be honest. I don't know if that's easier than creating something from scratch, like creating a universe revolving around something like a roller coaster like this. But man, ballsy, creative movie.
It'll never be tried again. Well, not in the near future.
Not to the same degree.
Well, you think of this movie's plot on paper and the fact that it's a pirate movie. And can you imagine trying to pitch this to a studio now? I mean, we don't work in the industry, but just looking at what they release and what gets promoted, I don't think they would take a risk like this.
Yeah.
Like a pirate movie about, skeleton ghost pirates, and it's going to be an all new franchise. Like, they would be like, let's just do something.
That's a ballsy thing. And it just kind of upset me that this franchise turned into what it is. That many people are disappointed with it now.
It's unfortunate. And it hurts the legacy of the first movie because, like, I think the first movie, as I said at the beginning of the episode, should be ranked up with Star Wars and
it's
Indiana
one of the
Jones,
greats.
Jaws, any of these classic summer blockbuster movies.
This one goes toe-to-toe with all of them.
It's one of the best. In its long history of summer blockbusters, this is one of the best. And it doesn't get that credit because its legacy was just destroyed by, a business of decreasing returns.
Yeah.
So. But
that's our take. Like, guys, we love this movie. And we grew up on it in our childhood, and watching it as grown adults now is just as entertaining as it was when we were kids, and we get to kind of appreciate it from a filmmaking standpoint. And like, now that we watch it with our older brains, we're like thinking about how just genius this entire movie is in every way. And I just wish we get more stuff like this. I wish big companies try new things like this more often.
Take a total shot in the dark and just see what happens.
And let actors be themselves. Let actors kind of build that character, like with you. Like, write the character, but try to match it with an actor that will be able to adapt it to themselves and be themselves, put themselves into the role, because that's what we got with Jack Sparrow.
But I also think that was just part of who they cast. I think there's some actors who try to do that improvisation thing and I'm an artist and I don't need direction, that either goes really well, like in this case, or it just is the cringiest thing ever. So I mean, I feel like a lot of it is the
Jared
casting.
Leto's Joker.
I get what you're saying. Not destroy your whole point. Actors should be free to be artists. I'm just saying sometimes you get Jack Sparrow, sometimes you get, as you said, Leto's Joker. So I just feel like it was just great casting on the studio's part. I think that really should be applauded, who they picked. It's just masterful.
It leaves me speechless, this one, to be honest. I don't know, like, if I'm on this too much or putting too much, like, but it's just great. Good job, Disney.
Yeah, this movie would get like a 95% or like a 100%.
Oh, yeah, it's up there. Like, if I were to give it out of 10, like a 9 out of 10 or like a 9.1 out of 10.
Amazing. I'm sure there's things wrong with it, but
we could really break it down and get an accurate reading on how good it is, but
Moonlight doesn't shine through the holes on Isla de Muerta properly like that. That wouldn't work in real life.
Yeah, it's not realistic, so it's bad.
Yeah, but these people seem to forget that they're fighting skeleton pirates.
Exactly. As I say all the time.
And it makes for a cool-ass action scene where they're drifting between the moonlight and changing back and forth.
That scene makes no sense, but like, you know how these people are immortal? Their skeletons are immortal? You know how she puts the bomb in him?
Yeah.
And then he blows up and it's like, oh God, oh no, she killed him, but he can't die. So I don't know what we're off about.
I questioned that as a kid, and I always imagined them, why didn't they do a scene where all the bones like crawl back together and form back into full pirate again?
Lots of plot holes and stuff like that, but
that would have been weird to do.
Turn off your brain and enjoy the fucking movie.
It's a 95%. It's just incredible.
Great movie. You guys should watch it. That's episode 9 of The Slime. We hope you enjoyed. This is one of our all-time favorites, so it was a no-brainer that we had to chat about it a bit. Maybe we could do an episode in the future, like what went wrong when it comes to Pirates of the Caribbean, which we kind of touched on today, but we only touched on what went wrong with like Jack's character. So like that could be an episode in the future if you guys want to hear us talk more about the franchise as a whole.
Talk about those trashy movies,
and when we get some news about a new trashy movie.
Sometimes I like to complain, and it's enjoyable to come on this podcast and vent. So
we could talk shit about a new Pirates movie if a new one comes out, but
whatever that's going to be.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Drink up, me hearties, yo ho.
Yo ho, yo ho. A pirate's life for me.